All right, team time trial today. We are back. Team time trial. See me messing with my heart rate monitor, and we are off. So this is a pretty crazy event. This is the WTRL Thursday night team time trial. They run this team time trial 8 different sessions of it a day on Zwift on every Thursday. So teams from all different time zones can compete. And so my team, Team Shift, based around the real life USA Cycling Team Shift, is taking part today with a few guests joining us virtually. We got Lawrence Monks from Tuscaloosa. We have got Zach's friend, New Brad. We got two Brads and two Zachs, so don't let that throw you. I'll say we got Brad Cox and then we got New Brad. So the way this event works is we're actually in the pin with several other people in the start pin, and then you have your own time, and your team leader is basically just watching the clock. And when your time comes up, you head out. And we're all on Discord. We're talking through everything, but first and foremost, the start time. So you saw us there hit out pretty hard. And Lawrence's son, you can see him with the red hair on the back of the group there. Um, L Monks at the bottom. So we pretty much all decided out the gate we're gonna hit like 4.5 5 watts a kilo, and then we'll come together. And once we get together, then we'll start working on the pace. So this is a team time trial, which is super interesting, I think, on Zwift. Team time trial is a format where a team is working together to get the fastest time on the course. You're not racing heads up against other teams. Each team is like individual. You're not seeing your competition. You're kind of riding hard in a void, and it's interesting because you're trying to use everyone on the team as much as possible to their full potential, but also not drop anyone on the team. So you're really trying to ride as smooth as you can, and you want to be as efficient as you can. So you'll see we're kind of trying to shuffle everybody, get in the draft, who's behind, and looks like we got Brad Cox on the front, which is going to be the theme of the night. Just put Brad on the front and have him do 5 point whatever watts a kilo. I think he was trying to peg it right around 5, but he's super strong. So I'll talk through who all these people are once I get done explaining the format. In this time trial, you can have, I believe, a team up to 8 people, and you get scored on the fourth man across the line. So you can burn a couple, and you're still in the game. But if you drop people from your team, so we got 7, we can drop 3. If we drop more than that, we're going to get scored on that fourth guy across the line. So it really behooves you to stay together. So little gaps like this one, it's like I'm trying to cover it really smooth. I'm trying to not ramp up the power too much. I'm trying to just smoothly ease up there. Um, but you can see even in the draft, Brad's doing 5.4. I'm doing 4.5. I mean, we're moving pretty good here. And yeah, we get into a nice single file line. We got New Brad saying that the first hill is around this turn. This is a Central Park course, so there's a bunch of little kickers, little inclines that make it tough for a team time trial because you want to go as fast as you can as a group, but you also want to stay together. You'll notice, so I got the green screen going on here, but our group set off at 6 like 43 local time or something. So as the sun goes down outside and the color of the light in my room changes, in my pain cave, my bike dungeon, whatever you want to call it, the sun goes down and I lose that sort of orange glow of light that's coming in from outside. The color that my background color starts to change, and you're going to start seeing the background more and more, and eventually I'm going to be inside of a blue rectangle. Sorry. Whew. Yeah, so this is hurting. coming over the knuckle here, trying to get back on. We're going pretty hard, pretty full stick. So this is what you don't want. You want to stay together, and oh, it looks like Lawrence is off the back. I believe this might have been the spot where somebody, maybe Luke, had a Bluetooth dropout for a second and came off the back a little bit. So we're all on Discord. You can see me talking. We're all on Discord and we're talking through who's taking turns. We're talking through who's at the front. So the interesting thing about this versus a normal time trial is a normal team time trial. You could get into a pace line, get into an order, and then basically the first person takes a pull for as long as they feel. Takes a pull being sit on the front, sit in the wind, and you're doing the most effort, whether it's here or in real life. On the front, that person will do an effort for as long as they feel like it, 2 minutes up to 5 minutes, something like that. And then when they want to be done, they can just pull over to the left and let the next person pull through. And they can ease off the power for a second, and you keep that single file line. But because of how Zwift works, you can't turn, so you can't just pull out of the person in front of you and then step off the gas. We're not so much in a single file line like a batting order. Really what matters is that someone knows they're supposed to be first, and that person is doing over 5 watts a kilo, and everybody else knows that they're not supposed to be first. So everyone else is doing less than 5 watts a kilo and just doing the minimum they have to do to stay on. So it looks like we got New Brad just kind of ripping it here, but Rader is going to be the hero and step into that gap. So it's really about just filling those gaps in for your teammates, trying to keep everything smooth. And you'll see here we need to close that gap, but we're not going to ramp it way up. Just 270, 280, keeping it well within the realm of what's normal, what's doable. And I think we're getting overtaken by a couple riders here. I remember there being some chatter. Oh, these guys are overtaking us. We got to go a little faster, but that is the biggest mistake you can make in a team time trial. And they're not overtaking us. They're on a different lap and they're going in a different direction. The biggest mistake you can make in a time trial of any kind is to go out too hard, put in too hard of an effort, and then because it's a time trial, you need to be on the gas the whole time. There's no recovery, so you pay for that the whole time. So the generally accepted wisdom on how to time trial the best is to actually be a little bit under your prescribed pace for the first third, nail it for the second third, and then kick it up at the end and actually be a little over your prescribed pace, because then when you're over your aerobic threshold, you're about to be done. So you can settle back in and see how I let a gap go out here. And I've got Zach Threat. You'll see him Z3 behind me on the list of Zwifters nearby on that right hand side. You can see, and Zach. I think Zach's been riding on Zwift a good bit, but he's kind of new to the group ride, to the races, to the dynamic of really riding Zwift with people and getting used to how that draft feels and how to find it. It's similar to in real life in that it's an art, and if you're in the draft, you're doing less work, and it's very finicky and very particular skill to find it. But it's different in real life because you can't use your brakes to slow down. You can't steer yourself out into the wind. You see me just taking a drag off some honey right here. I'm out of SIS gels, so I'm resorting to the classic honey bear. I got a honey bear. I've got one bottle of Scratch and one bottle of water. I think I've got an ice sock down the back of my base layer here to keep me cool. But yeah, so you'll see three, like he's off the front now. There's also a little bit of I don't want to say a delay on Zwift, but the power you see up in the top left corner is your 3-second power generally, unless you set it otherwise. And that means that it's averaging your power from the last 3 seconds. So if you start coming off the back and you realize, then you ramp your power up very hard, that number is not going to reflect how hard you're going right now for 3 seconds. So it's easy to fall out of the draft a little bit, see that you're getting gapped, and then overdo it and end up out the front. And then you've overdone that effort. You did more than you had to get back in, which is going to hurt you in the long term. And then you're also out the front, which is going to hurt you right now because you're back in the wind. And looks like I'm taking a little pull here. So we really tried to play to everyone's strengths here, and I guess I'll get to talking through who everyone is. Zach Threed is one of our newest guys on shift. He's only been riding for a couple of years now, if that. He's only raced one season on the road, and he's already probably over 4 watts a kilo. So he's definitely poised to be a monster. And then so I'm taking a poll right now. Behind me, we've got Brad Cox, who is the current Alabama State Road Race champion. That was, as a team, probably the most fun race we did last year. Most fun race for me because Brad is super strong. We were kind of all in for Brad to take the win. And we knew the only way to do that was to really play the team card. So I had no hope. I was fully playing the teammate. No hopes of winning or even really caring how I finished. So I was able all day to just throw haymakers. Yep, there's my background. So now I'm in the rectangle. Welcome to the rectangle. Sorry. I will get that sorted. I guess I need some blinds or I don't know, something. Blackout curtains. But yeah, so Brad was our man on the day for state championships last year, and that really let me off the leash. I could just kind of attack with impunity, and I would just attack and then kind of sit at sweet spot and make everyone chase me, and everyone except Brad, because Brad's my teammate. It's not going to chase me down, so Brad could just sit in the wheels. The group would come back to me, and every time we were forcing other people to do the work. And if I was racing for myself, those attacks would have been stressing me out because I would have felt like if I'm not making it stick, I'm wasting that energy and I'm going to get myself dropped. But really, it didn't matter in that race if I got myself dropped as long as I was hurting everyone else. And yeah, we did it. I would just go on an attack, come back, and then tell Zach Rader to hit it. He would go off the front, and we really wore everybody down. Super fun race. Brad took it in the end, and it still was very close. We got some strong guys in Alabama, and that ended up being one of the main road races of the year last year for sure. Super fun. So Zach talked about Zach Threet, talking about Zach Rader now. Rader is kind of heading up this shift racing esports program. I think this was his idea to do one of these team time trials. Rader is also, I guess he was a mountain biker long ago and has recently come back to cycling and gotten on the road. He is freakishly strong for where he's at. His 20-minute power is almost 5 watts a kilo, and he's a bigger boy than I at this point. In my crit video, he finished well above my placing, so yeah, he's very solid. You can see I barely got my cap on my head now. I'm trying to keep cool. I probably should have just taken it off at this point, but it is what it is. Trying to let that forehead sweat evaporate. Yep, New Brad is saying someone's breathing, and I think we got Luke and Threed are kind of hurting after that last hill. And we're going 31. I mean, I'm doing 250 watts in the draft. We're going pretty hard here. I do think we paced this really well. We're never in danger of dropping down to less than 4 people at all. You'll see we do drop a couple people. You'll see who that is later. But yeah, getting back to Zach Rader, he is super strong. I won't say a novice rider, but he's definitely newer than myself, newer than Brad Cox, who I guess are sort of the veteran guys here. And then we have Lawrence Monks, who is a former motocross dude turned road racer, mountain biker, cyclocross racer. I think he's a Cat 1 mountain biker, Cat 2 road racer, first cyclocross season last year, but did really well at that. All around, just a really good rider, good racer. So stoked to have him that he wanted to get on board and do this time trial. So we're all wearing the same jersey, which makes it easier when we're overtaking groups like we are right now. I think this one caught me out a little bit. I got stuck in a sticky draft a bit and had to do an effort to get back on. So a sticky draft is, nope, that one came pretty clean. Uh, a sticky draft in Zwift is, unlike real life, you can't sort of steer yourself behind the person you want to be behind. The game is deciding based on a lot of factors, sort of who it thinks you should be drafting and where you should be sitting in the bunch. So when you're coming up on another group to overtake them like we just did, if you don't kind of kick up your watts a little bit, you can get stuck behind someone who's not on your team or not the wheel you're trying to follow because you're not creating enough of a variation between your power and their power, and the game just thinks, this is as good a wheel as any, I'll just stick you right here. And then it takes a real kick to sort of tell the game, hey, I'm coming around this guy. So I got one of those at one point. That wasn't it. Yep, there goes the cap. And my green screen is kind of kicking in and out, but these loop times, these don't mean anything, so you're not missing a whole lot today. We got a really good single file line with all the gaps looking real consistent and nice right here. One thing we did a really good job of, I'm really proud about, is we did not do much riding side by side at the front. That is something, another Zwift quirk I would say, is if I'm doing 5.5 watts a kilo and Brad's doing 5.5 watts a kilo and we're kind of both at the front, sometimes Zwift will put you right next to each other and neither of you is getting the benefit of that draft and neither of you is dropping in behind the other. So you kind of just get stuck in this purgatory where two people are going as hard as one person could go for the same speed, if that makes sense. You're not gaining anything and you're sort of wasting a little bit of pull. Yeah, so we got Brad back on the front. We really leaned heavily on the Brad squared train here, because Brad Cox is, in addition to being the state road race champion, a great time trialist. There's not a ton of time trials in the state, but where there is one, Brad is normally either on the he normally either wins them or he's definitely on the podium. I mean, he is up there for sure. So it was great to have him on this TTT. He really took a lot of the workload. And then the other Brad we've got up here is one of Zach Rader's military buddies who he's actually overseas right now. So he's it's 6 p.m. for all of us. It's 3 a.m. for him. He's on a military base somewhere overseas, that undisclosed location, and he's just hammering and putting in a ton of work. So big shout out to him for hopping on and helping us there. Who am I leaving out here? Oh, we got Luke Caldwell also. Luke Caldwell is a veteran shift racing rider who spent a few months off the bike before the shutdown, before the quarantine, and then Zwift has actually brought him sort of back into the fold, so we're glad to have him. He's a powerhouse. He had a Wahoo issue at some point in this, and so, spoiler alert, he's one of the ones that we're going to lose. So that's everybody we got in here. We're really, looks like Lawrence is taking a pull here. So we're in the group chat and we're constantly shouting out, like right now, coming up on these guys, so everybody ramp your power up over 5 so we don't get stuck. and we avoid the sticky draft there really well. We got Brad warning us of hills incoming. So we're all talking in a chat, but then new Brad can hear us, but he's actually typing, which sounds awful to me. But that was what he had to do. I think he didn't have a microphone, or there was some reason that he couldn't talk on the Discord chat that we had going on. But it was good either way that we could communicate with him and he could communicate with us. I think someone in the chat said, Crane, you take us into the base of this hill. So I'm just trying to set an even 5 watts a kilo and just hold it up this hill. One of the worst things we could do is really punch on these hills and start dropping guys, start shedding people from the group. That would not help us at all, because then our options are to slow down on the downhill and regroup, or leave them for dead, in which case, why are we on a Zwift time trial, a team time trial, that is. So that's what's interesting about a team time trial, is there's a lot of factors to account for. Another reason we're leaning so heavily on Brad and Brad is that they're both on the Z1 concept bike, which is the one of the fastest bikes in Zwift. I don't know, I guess it's arguable at this point. They've made some updates and stuff. There was a time when it was far and away the fastest bike in Zwift, but I think for a time trial like this, where the only climbs are sort of short and punchy, it's probably the fastest bike. So really having either one of them on the front of the group more than anyone else, they're kind of slicing into the wind a little bit more, and they get more of that aerodynamic benefit than the rest of us do. So because both of them are good time trialists and they have the right gear, they are on the front a little bit more, and then the rest of us are on the front a little bit less. And that's something we talked about ahead of time, was probably letting especially Brad Cox do a decent bit of the work. Looks like I'm taking a little pull here. Yeah, we're coming into a hill, so I did try to set the pace on the hills a little bit more, although with me being by far the lightest rider, that can be dangerous. If I'm not watching my watts per kilo, it would be easy to sort of accidentally put the hurt on the group. So I'll talk about my gear. I guess I'll talk through all the gear right now. I'm running the Specialized Allay, and this is in the game, which, if you don't know, the bikes and the wheels that you choose in Zwift have a pretty big effect on performance. People have tested this with all kinds of methods, but there is a really big performance at the same wattage for different gear. So choosing the right stuff, earning the right stuff is all part of the game. And Brad and Brad have both done an insane amount of climbing to earn those Z1 concept bikes, the Tron bikes. I am fairly new to Zwift. I've only been on for about a month, but I've kind of dove in head first because that's the thing that's keeping me engaged. So at the level I'm at, the fastest stuff I could run on this course was the Specialized Allay, which in real life is an aluminum frame with some aero elements, and the Zip 808 wheels, which 808s are kind of the gold standard in real life for like a criterium wheel, a fast, deep wheel. So not terrible gear. I'm not completely on the back foot there, but the Z1 concept bike is going to shave a few seconds off for sure. So you'll notice Brad and Brad at the front a lot, and we are in the chat very vocally. We're all sort of discussing, okay, Brad's on the front now. Brad, your power looks good, or you're kind of dropping some people, or there's all kinds of things we're discussing, trying to keep everything even, trying to keep the pace good. Oh yeah, this is a beautiful single file line. We're really doing great. I think probably Zach Threep behind me, he's been hurting a little bit on the hills. We're hitting this little 3% kick here. So as we roll through, we're on the chat, and someone will say, hey, I feel pretty good. I got the next pull. They'll hit the front, and then while they're on the front, I was trying to be pretty vocal about if nobody spoke up, saying like, who wants it next? Anybody feeling it? And then that person would win whoever is the leader. So, Brad's on the front right now. Brad would kind of say, I'm tapping out or whatever. Someone would say, like, I'm ready to take over. And unlike in real life where the first person would just pull to the left, the next person would pull through, that person could be at the back. Wherever they were, they would just start putting down that sort of 5.5 watts a kilo tempo until they sort of float forward. So we weren't staying in a line. I think that would drive you nuts on Zwift, trying to keep your batting order in a perfect line would be near impossible on Zwift. Maybe there are some other teams doing it in the team time trial, but this is a really sort of opaque discipline. That's part of why I wanted to film this one, is because I've not seen anyone really talk about doing these things. It's cool. It's really cool that, because it's a time trial, they can actually run this in all sorts of different time zones. There's a bunch of teams doing this, different time zones all over the world on the same day, and then compiling the results. So you'll see at the end it's a little bit confusing. You have to sign into the I believe WTRL is the acronym for the company or whoever puts on this time trial. Because of that staggered start time, you saw us just sort of sitting in the pen at the beginning, and we're all listening for Zach to give us the go-ahead on the Discord app. That WTRL has to go in and manually adjust the times at the end. So our start time was whatever it was, like 6:45 plus 8 minutes. So we actually had to wait for the timer we had to hit the 8-minute mark to go across the start line. It looks like, yeah. So we lost Luke Caldwell. You can see him kind of drifting back there. I want to say he maybe had I think his Wahoo, his kicker had a dropout. So I'm grabbing another shirt. I'm perpetually dropping my sweat towels here, and then I'm training right in front of my dresser. I've got the computer sitting on the dresser, so I'll drop one and then just grab another one. I think through the course of this ride, I grabbed 3 shirts and wiped my sweat with them. So I guess I need to do some laundry. Yeah, so we lost Luke Caldwell. We're down 1. Yeah, Luke's already 2 minutes back right now. So we are moving. We're going pretty good. I think I'm going to focus a lot on what we did well, and not so much on, you know, anything else on what we did. I don't think we did anything poorly. I mean, I think we maybe could have gone a little bit harder, but especially for this first one when we don't know the discipline and we don't really know how the mechanics of it are going to work. Because again, the draft on Zwift is tricky. Everyone's different fitness is kind of tricky. See, we're on this little hill right here. Just like staying together on these things is going to be tough. So my biggest fear was that we were going to waste a lot of effort going too hard, dropping people, regrouping. That could really slow you down. That sort of like start and stop kind of effort would be much slower than just a slightly more conservative pacing strategy. And then there's also the chance that you pace a little too hard, and some of us who are not as good time trialists, myself included, potentially get dropped at some point, and then we've really blown our day because we're scored on the 4th person across the line. So maybe Brad could hold that pace, but if I did too many pulls toward the beginning, and say Zach Rader did too many pulls toward the beginning, and both of us sort of blew our wads too early and got ourselves dropped later on, that could really come back to bite us. I'm hitting the honey here. If you don't know this trick, this is a classic cyclist hack. If you don't have any gels, just grab the honey bear. It's like a big gel. I mean, it's basically liquid sugar. It's really easy on your stomach. I know that's maybe not vegan according to some people, but or not vegan in general. I don't know, but I think I can get away with the honey. I like it. It does well for my stomach. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to use that in a race, but in a IRL race. But I think that's all the more reason to use it here. I'm not paying through the nose for SIS gels or whatever. Those things work great. But so here I am taking my pull. I'm trying to keep it right around 5 watts a kilo. I don't know how I probably stay on here for a minute or two. Um, it was kind of hard to keep the Brads at bay, though, I will say, because they're on those super fast bikes and they also just did not want to slow down. So those guys were ripping, and a lot of times I would be trying to take my pull right at 5, and yeah, one of them would pull alongside me like here, and it's like, well, rather than sit side by side like I was talking about earlier, one of us has to back off. So I was trying to give them the rest that they need, but also not overextend myself or any of the rest of us if we don't have to. And I think like I was saying, I think we paced it really well. We went a little bit under what we could do, which allowed us to keep it really smooth, kept us from dropping a lot of people. Looks like Zach Rader is a second off there. And that's so hard coming over those rollers and being, if you're slightly off the back and then we crest one of those rollers and we're going 33 down the other side, you got to put down a big effort to get back on. And I think Zach was chilling at the very back. I say chilling. That is not a chill place to be in Zwift. You get that accordion effect where when things stretch out, you got all those little gaps. And it looks like we're coming up on another team here. I think there's this one section of the course that you kind of loop around a couple times. Yeah. So we're going one way and they're going the other way, but they actually are doing the same time trial. This, unlike real life, because it's Zwift, you could set a route that sort of like snakes around and does some of the same sections in different directions, stuff like that. I forget what this exact loop is called. Whole time trial is about 30 miles. I guess I can spoil it because it's not like you can see the results at the end. I mean, you can see what time we put down and sort of, I guess, reverse engineer our average speed or whatever. But so I think 400 and some odd teams did this time trial in all of the different iterations for different time zones throughout the day. And in the overall GC, we were 40 something, like 42. So kind of like top, 10% or whatever, right around that mark. And that was a conservative pacing, I think. So especially for our first one, I think we did great. I think we're going to revisit this as a team. It was a really fun way. So this is mostly guys that we are on the IRL shift racing team. The shift team on Zwift is kind of like shift and friends. It's kind of like everyone who's on shift plus whoever else wants to get involved. So as I said earlier, we've got some guest riders here, but it's a really good way, the team time trial, to sort of like get a fun ride in with the guys. And it's really hard when you're taking your pulls on the front, and it's really hard when we're going up some of these hills. But it should be, I think, if you're pacing it correctly, maybe the person on the front is going hard enough that they can't talk, but the guys behind, especially who haven't taken a pull in a minute, you should be able to get your heart rate just low enough that you can do a little chatting. So it was a good sort of middle ground between a super intense race with your friends and just like a social ride that is, a fun hang but kind of boring. I think, yeah, flip the camera around there to see where Zach was. I mentioned it in my crit video, but that is a good trick. Oh, this is where we pick up. So this guy, we've got this fake rider. I don't know why people do this on Zwift, but this F, I can't read his whole thing there, but you see him on the list, F Gutierrez or something, 4762. Um, if you watch him, he's just stuck at, I think, 5.2 watts a kilo. It's like his power never changes and he just stays. Um, we suspect that this might have been some sort of tomfoolery. This is someone who's using some sort of program to I don't even know, cheat. I don't know. I don't know what. Either way, they should not be sitting in with our group. Per the rules of this time trial, you're supposed to get away. So, we're trying to overtake him, and we're debating in the chat like, should we all burn a match to get away from him? And the general consensus is just like, he can get himself disqualified if he wants to, sitting in with us, but we don't need to shatter ourselves trying to lose him or not lose him. We suspect he's probably not a real person. Yeah, try to drop him on the hill is what New Brad says. And I think, after I said, like, I'm just going to ignore him. I'm going to ride my pace. We're going to ride the pace we set out to ride. So we're passing another team right here, and this is like, okay, this is clearly another team who's doing the team time trial, so we're going to pass them with some force, and we do. We get through them clean. Although maybe this is where I catch a sticky draft on one of these dudes. There was one where, yep, see, like each of these guys, I'm getting stuck behind them for just a second, and then that gap has gone out a little bit. It's maybe it where, yeah. Maybe I get back this time. Yeah. I just remember there being one where I got caught in a couple of sticky drafts and we were going up a hill or something and then had to put in a pretty big effort to get back on. Oh, maybe it's this. I had, yeah, 324 watts here and then we're coming up on this other team. So it's like the combo of like all of these little sticky drafts. It's like I want to slot in me and Lawrence. Yeah. Yeah. See, so we didn't come through there as quickly as the other guys did, and now we got a huge gap, and boom, 400 watts. I told them not to slow down for us. We'll come back to them. And so this is the alarms are going. You can see I'm rocking side to side. I'm doing over 400 watts here. I'm trying to shut this down as quickly as possible, but when you're a 61 kilo rider and you're on the negative 6% grade, the physics work the same way as they do in real life. A light rider does not go down as fast as a heavy rider does. So I did get back, but that was a match for sure. And then we're Lawrence and I are saying, just let us come through with our momentum. You guys don't surge. We'll just settle into a comfortable pace, and we'll get back together. We'll get stuck. Yep, Brad says we dropped him. So yeah, we did get rid of that guy, thankfully. Um, Super annoying whether that was a real guy or not, whether it was someone running some kind of program or something. Just don't do that. Why are you doing that? Why even, like, what are you getting out of that? Um, Hitting another hill. Let's see. We still got Rader in here, so that's good. Um, yeah, it is. This is the part where it's starting to hurt, though. You can see all these hills. We're doing like almost 6 watts a kilo. These 360 watt efforts, which for a lot of guys that wouldn't seem like much, but again, I weigh 61 kilos, so 400 watt effort is a lot for me. Kind of a small dude, so it's good because I can climb quickly, but my overall just like raw watts do not look very impressive to look at. And I'm not really running the most like optimized climbing setup today. The Zip 808s do not climb as fast in the game. So that is a real, concern going up these hills. I don't know if the Z1 concept bike climbs quicker or slower. I don't think I've seen a head-to-head test on that. People have done a lot of testing, but it's like it's impossible to test every possible combination against every other possible combination. I guess not impossible, but it would just be so time consuming. No one's done it. Um, so we got to make some assumptions on what's what here. Uh, yeah, so we still got 6 guys. We're looking pretty good, and I wish my heart rate was working. You could see on the line I was kind of messing with my heart rate monitor, moving it around, and I don't know what's up with that thing. I have 2 heart rate monitors. I have a Garmin one that is really good, but it only broadcasts Amp Plus, and I'm using Bluetooth, so don't have an Amp Plus dongle. I'm not sure if you can mix, like have an Amp Plus heart rate and do your power via Bluetooth. It just seems too complicated, and I'm not trying to do all that. So I have this crappy, I don't even know what the brand is. Someone actually gave it to me, a runner who was like, I'm using wrist-based heart rate, so I don't even use this thing anymore. Just gave it to me, and it only broadcasts Bluetooth, which at the time I was like, great, I'll use this one on the trainer. I'll leave it with my trainer set up. The bad news is that it doesn't work very well. It cuts out a lot, and it was cutting out on the start line, and I thought about taking it off and like licking the electrodes, because that's what does it, is the electrical connection needs to be wet, or that's one thing that really helps. And it would have required me taking off my bibs, taking off everything on the start line. So I asked the guys, like, hey, are you required to have heart rate for this? And they said no. And I said, cool, I'm not gonna fool with this. Although I do love Zwift races that require heart rate. Um, just keeps the tomfoolery and the cheating to a minimum. Hopefully you can see here that I'm not pulling any stunts. You can see me. You can see how hard I'm going on the left over here. And this effort is definitely not out of line with all of the other efforts on my real life Strava account or my Zwift. So um, hopefully that's good enough for you guys. But yeah, I don't really understand cheating on Zwift. It's like, why? There's not really anything to be gained. There's no prize money on the line here. There's not, as I said before in one of my videos, not even any glory. It's like you can do it, I guess, but why? So you'll notice New Brad does not have the word shift after his name. I think he tried to change it. Maybe he changed it on Zwift Power, but not on here. And we're debating in the chat. We're not totally certain. We're not totally certain if he is going to be scored with us, because it says you have to have 4 people with the team name in brackets after the name, and that's how they do the scoring, is the 4th one across the line. So my thought was, if New Brad, if they're doing that based on Zwift Power, he'll get scored for us. But if they're doing it based on the results that post on Zwift, then he will not be scored. So I said he should go ahead and take his hero pull, and he did, which was great. He took a really hard pull on the last lap here. It looks like I'm taking a little one, although again I'm up against Brad and I'm right next to him, and it's like, well, he's feeling good. So, and I remember we could hear his kids over the chat here, like cheering for him. It's very cute. They were yelling, "Go, Daddy, go!" At some point here, oh no, Rader's still on. I thought we dropped Rader, but I guess he hung in there longer than I thought he did. Or at some point he said he was out. Maybe he made it back on, but it looks like I'm see. Oh, it's 3 we lost. I don't know when that happened, but that was rough. I'm getting my Zachs confused. Of course, Zach Rader is with us, and we're coming into the last couple of miles here, discussing. So yeah, in the chat, we're just kind of constantly touching base and evaluating who's feeling good, who wants to go to the front next, who, if you're on the front, when are you going to pull off, who wants to take it on this hill. And we had really good communication throughout, which is key for this event. That's what makes this different than just a normal time trial, is you really have to be a cohesive unit with your teammates. You can't just have the strongest guys. You got to have sort of the most efficient plan, and then you got to be responsive to each other, and you got to have good communication to change on the fly, because like right now we're down to 5, so we really got to keep this group together. We're right, butting up against that. If someone lets the wheel go here, and they're in the middle of the group, and then that gets a couple guys dropped, that could be the race, that could be the whole ball game. So really, I mean, even myself right now, I'm trying to keep it smooth, but I'm also trying not to let that gap go out. It requires a lot of coordination. Man, you can really see my background, huh? Well, I'm gonna figure out the background. I'm also gonna figure out this frame rate thing. I'm not sure why. If anyone can tell me how to get a better frame rate out of OBS, I thought that I had optimized it, and maybe it'll look better when it renders than what this preview looks like. But I'm sort of frustrated with the frame rate. It always looks crispy on Zwift when I'm doing it, and it looks crispy on OBS when I'm watching it as it records, and then when I see the final export, it just looks a little choppier, and it's pretty frustrating. But I'm gonna figure it out. Maybe I need a more powerful machine. Although I'm on a Microsoft Surface Pro 2 or something. I mean, this should be. I would think that the graphics card would be able to handle this, but I'm also not a computer guy. Not really a gamer until now. So I don't know. We're in the last mile. Brad Cox bringing us home. I believe we got on the chat and said, Brad, just whatever you feel like you got now, you just do it, and we'll stick with you. And I said that we should all sprint sort of at the 0.3 miles to go, 0.2 miles to go, like that kind of zone, and just don't worry about, we're not sprinting against each other. Just everybody empty the tank, and that'll get us across the line as soon as possible. I think for some reason everyone except me that got a ride on there. I don't know what that's about. Got a few XP. Oh, this is what, yeah, this I think has potential to get messy here. We're gonna pass another team. So yeah, I'm super happy with our result. I know when you say you're 40 something, that doesn't sound good until you factor in that there are 400 some odd teams competing, which is insane to have that many teams from all over the world competing on the same course on the same day in all these shifts, which is how a normal time trial works. Everyone's start times are staggered. Pretty amazing. Yeah, we're just blasting past this team. You can see they are all on the Tron bike, so that's funny that we're blasting past them like that, but they do have the super optimized setups. You also don't know here. I mean, they could have been on their second lap, and we're on our last one, so we're really trying to burn the last of the matches. Who knows? Looks like we got Rader taking a hero pull here. And here's my sprint. Yeah. So I'm winning the sprint, but we're not sprinting against each other, so who cares? And still not an impressive sprint. It's just 600, 700 watts. Yeah, it's so 261 is the average, and I'm not sure if that's factoring in the time we spent sitting in the corral at the beginning, but either way, that's right in the middle of the sweet spot, and so that's pretty good for a time trial effort. Feel good about this one. Like and subscribe. Let me know if there's any way that I can sort of optimize this video setup you know of. Yeah, gonna keep these coming. Let me know if you got any team time trial questions. I feel like we got a pretty good handle on how to do it, so I would love to talk team time trials in the comments, or just like how Zwift works. Later.